Okay, we have a special Zoom presentation tonight from Robert Farquharson, WC1N. He's been doing POTA for a couple of dozen years, which it seems like, but it hasn't been. But anyway, a long time. He knows a lot about POTA and SOTA also. So without further ado, Bob, please take it away.
Okay, well, thank you very much, John. My name is Bob Farquharson. I'm located over here in Easton. My call is Whiskey Charlie #1 November. Been a ham for 40 plus years, I guess. And just got back into ham radio last July, pretty much at that time. So I have an interest in remote operations, which includes POTA and SOTA and field day and winter field day. And I just like to share that with you guys, and hopefully will stimulate some interest. And it's changed my life. I've had a lot of fun going out there and doing it. So I'm going to share a few things and talk about some different photos that I'm going to bring up on the screen for you guys. If anybody has a question, you just push the space bar, and from there you can, it's like a push to talk microphone, okay? So here we go. It's we're going to talk about POTA. It's parks on the air. Basically, you go to a state park, you set up a radio station, and then you go on the POTA website, you announce that you're there, and then stand back and let people call you, whether it's any type of mode whatsoever. Now, this is a little bit of history with myself to start off, so you know where I'm coming from. I had a 60-foot tower and had all these beams and everything, and one day I said, you know, I'm probably not going to be able to take this down by myself like I put it up. So I called Whitman Amateur Radio Club and spoke to Bob. And needless to say, he came over and he took all the equipment away. And what I did was I hired a crane, and this is what they did. So basically, we hooked on to the top of the 60-foot tower, plus there was probably about a 20-foot mast up there with a heavy-duty rotor. We cut off the Roam 25, disconnected all the guys, and lifted onto the ground. And needless to say, Bob came over and donated all the equipment to the Amateur Radio Club. And then as he was leaving, he started telling me about this new digital age. And I've always been interested in electronics and the new up-to-date items. And well, needless to say, after I gave my equipment away and they drove away, I ended up going out and buying a little digital walkie-talkie. And I got interested in digital for a couple of weeks. And then I realized that I missed the HF and ended up putting up some dipoles around the residence. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is some antennas on your remote operation. Now, this happens to be an end-fed. And this is basically what they look like. We basically have a transformer here that matches the network, because a long wire without feeding it is like 2,500 ohms. That's why you have a 49-to-1 balun. So it basically gets the impedance of the feed line close to 50 ohms. Okay. Conventional antenna. You don't have to go out and spend a lot of money, as you guys probably already know. You can pretty much make your own antenna. This is an example of one that I made. This happens to be a fan dipole, both 20 meters as well as 40 meters. And real simple, 462 divided by the frequency of megacycles gives you the length. Feed it with 50 ohm cable. It's very balanced. Come down to the transmitter, and here we go, we're on the air. And if you're fortunate enough to get an antenna tuner, you can adjust the length to lower your SWR. Just another picture. This was a remote setup I did for a POTA. This was down in next to New Bedford in Fairhaven at Fort Phoenix, a beautiful place early in the morning. The antenna tuner. That's how you adjust the length of your antenna, and you can get it pretty exact. As you can see here, it's 1.1 to 1 at the low end of 40 meters on the CW band. A friend of mine wanted to know how I ran this antenna. This is the 63-foot end fed sold by Chameleon. I cover the ballon in the shrink wrap around the ballon under snow in water conditions, raining, because I noticed it changes my SWR. Now notice I have a choke here also on the coax. This is just a little video that shows you how I ran it. I basically tie a piece of string to the truck. I come out. This is where my ballon is. I've noticed under rain and snow, the SWR goes up if in fact the ballon gets wet. So I cover that up, even though it's wrapped in plastic. And then the antenna goes all the way down here, 63 feet. And as you can see, I'm only about 2 feet above the snow. And then I tie 4 feet onto that little pine tree, and that's all there is to it. Works out great. I've been to Europe, South America, Caribbean, all across the coast. Works out great. Chameleons, 63-foot end fed. Now, this happened to be the first week in February that John, WI1G, and myself, we both took our ice houses and we did some winter camping. There's 4 feet of snow. This is up in northern Maine. This is on the edge of Moosehead Lake. It was cold, but we stayed in our ice houses and made all sorts of contacts all around. This was a state park, so I did the activation. John did a lot of chasing, hunting. The last I knew, he was working down in the Cayman Islands. So we had a great time. Field day is coming up. I just want to show you how simple it is to get on field day and go out there and have some fun. Basically brought a table, 706, very inexpensive radio, keyer or microphone, and I had a tuner in this particular case, and I had my antenna on the back of the truck. Now, you don't have to have it on a truck. You can certainly throw up an antenna on a limb of the tree. You noticed before I was only 2 or 3 feet off the ground. I worked all over the place. So it doesn't have to be too fancy. And you have lots of fun. And here's certainly the log also. And headphones if you got a lot of people. Now, one thing I want to mention here, if you happen to have a lot of people and you're on the radio and you like to use headphones, do me a favor, will you? Get a splitter or a Y and get one of these remote speakers so the people standing beside you can hear the conversation, so they can get interested in ham radio as compared to headphones only. They have no idea what's going on and they're going to lose interest and walk away very shortly. Just another picture, same thing. You can certainly go a little fancier. This happens to be a fiberglass pole with a friend of mine up in Alaska that I work pretty much on a regular basis. At this fiberglass pole, you can string up an antenna, whatever length you want, and bring it down to a tuner. And it's a great way to run a vertical. So the angle of radiation is much lower, and you can get, DX a little bit easier. You can go the inexpensive way. This happens to be a magnetic mount that I use on a regular basis on the truck. And in this particular instance, it shows a 17-foot stainless steel whip that I use on 20 meters and 17 meters. And I think it loads up on 30 meters also. And it works out quite well. Not a lot of money. The alligator clips that you see here is for a counterpose. I run 20 feet of wire and I bring it back to the rear of the truck and I hook it onto a ground. So hopefully the truck is acting as a radiator, a reflector rather. Just another view. This happens to be down in Beaver Tail. So I have a mast that I made on the back of the truck with a 2x2 steel tubing that I had my welder weld, and I took a 2x4 24 footer, ripped it down, put a pulley at the top so I could hoist up the antenna, run it down to a couple weights at the bottom of either end, and you're on the air. And it's just beautiful sitting out there all day. You're on a picnic and you get to operate ham radio also. Hopefully everybody knows what this is. It's an arborist throw. And how this works is this is nothing more than like a bean bag. So we tie on the string. Some people use a light rope. and you go over to a tree and you swing it and you throw it up in a tree, it goes over a branch. You let the weight come down to the ground. At the other end of the string, you tie your antenna, you pull your antenna up, and you're in business. And it works out quite well. Now, this, well, listen, I think this is a park down the Cape, and I have notified other hunters on the internet that I'm about to do a POTA. And this is what happens. So I've activated myself. I'm about ready to take up the microphone and talk. And normally it's CW, but this case it's microphone. You can see what the result might be. Okay, here I am down Cape Cod. I'm doing an activation on 20 meters on sideband. I've just posted myself on the website for POTA. Let's see how well it works. Picking up the microphone. QRZ the frequency, Whiskey Charlie 1 November. The kilowatt Echo 8, come again.
Kilowatt Echo 8, Tango Alpha Lima, yourself.
Kilowatt Echo 8, Tango Alpha Lima, you're 5'9", Cape Cod.
Yes, you're 5'9" in Michigan today. Thanks for the park, 73.
7-3s, thank you very much. There was an Alpha Zulu coming out. One more call for the Alpha Zulu. November Charlie 4 Alpha Zulu. You're also a very strong signal up here, 5'8" Cape Cod. I'm not going to bore you with a typical conversation any longer, but you can see how quickly it happens, and you get immediate pileup. I've had pileups for hours upon hours. I've operated POTA since last July, mid-July, and I've got I'm going on 15,000 contacts. And a lot of them are CW, and you certainly do voice if you like, but it's great. It's a lot of fun. You get to meet a lot of people around the world, people that are basically repeat customers, and you develop a lot of friendships. This happens to be an antenna setup I had 3 weeks ago on top of Mount Monadnock. This was a hike up about 3,200 feet. I went up there by myself, snow and ice with spikes on, and set up the end-fed antenna behind me. And I have a little video shows you how I did that. Hello guys, Whiskey Charlie 1 November. Here it is, the halfway through March, I think, maybe March 11th, if I'm not mistaken. On top of Mount Monadnock, about 3,100 plus feet. Cold, a little windy. Got my end fed all the way down there. Just ready to go live on a SOTA activation up here. A little windy, a little cold. Not bad though. So here we go, SOTA. Whiskey Charlie 1 November. So this was the same scenario. Set up the 63-foot end fed. I had no trees up there, so I actually used my hiking pole. I basically wedged them between the different ledge up there and ran it in between. And immediately, as soon as I went on frequency, I had, there's one gentleman in France that contacts, I don't know how he does it. He has evidently a fantastic antenna and receiver. He contacts almost every guy that operates a SOTA immediately. And my first contact was in France. And by the way, everything was QRP. So there's another example of the antenna. This is another view of that antenna when WI1G and myself did camping up in northern Maine the first week in February. And this is just another viewpoint. So here's the end fed. I just tied it on with a little rope on the truck. The feed line comes down here that has the choke, and it goes right into the ice house. This was my ice house. John had a similar one. Ham sticks. Oh, I guess this is the wrong one. Ham sticks. very inexpensive antennas. Here's an example. This ham stick is for, I believe this one is for 20 meters. They all look pretty much the same. It's $22. I operated for quite a long period of time on a ham stick on my truck with a magnetic mount, and I worked into Alaska on a regular basis. You know, for $22, you can't go wrong. You know, there's all sorts of antennas, but this one's pretty reasonable. I'd have to say the 40-meter one is not as efficient, but anything above 40 meters is much better. So $22, guys, and you get on the air with your radio and have some fun. This is the setup that I have for the antenna. Again, the 2-inch by 2-inch hitch that comes out. I made this at a right angle, comes up with steel. I drilled a couple holes, made a pivot point so I can just stand this up, slide these, looks like 3.5-inch bolts through there, latch them, and then pull it up with a pulley, and I'm on the air. And here I am on the Appalachian Trail, just sitting back and enjoying myself. Different operations, it doesn't have to be POTA. This happens to be an example of Mr. Davis and myself down at the Plymouth Plantation. They were doing a remote activation down there, and I had a lot of fun. You don't need an expensive antenna. As I just showed you, the same breath was, you don't need an expensive radio. This was a homemade radio that a friend of mine in England that I speak to at least once a day, Golf 0 DJF, and great guy out there, and pretty much every single day we work, whether it's on 17 meters. Today we worked 17, and I switched over to 20. He came right over, and he's starting to activate too over in England. So another ham that's turned into a POTA operator. So it's very rewarding. This is inside the ice house that we do camping in the winter. This is the setup we have. We have the Bioeno battery. I have a 50 amp hour. You can go much smaller. I have the 891. I do have a tuner here. And you see all these cords that plug in. I also bought an inexpensive generator that at the time when I go to sleep at night, at that time I start the generator up. I program it for like 4 hours, and it charges all the batteries, goes, shuts off during the night while I'm sleeping, and bingo, I wake up in the morning, we're ready to go again. Nothing too fancy here. Another simple, everyday operation. You can set this up in 10 minutes, really. Battery, radio, tuner, headphones, key or mic, and then just string that antenna. And you know, people say it's got to be high. I've operated that antenna literally 2 feet off the ground and had fantastic success. I've put it on guardrails before, horizontal on a guardrail, and worked in Europe, Alaska. So again, don't be afraid of antennas. You can get the simplest antenna and have a lot of fun. This was an activation. Yeah, I can remember I had a spare battery here. This was my first battery. I had an automobile battery I started with. This was one of my first activations. This was up in northern Maine, up at Sabumic Lake, 33 miles into the woods. And this is all I had for power, and I stayed in there for a few days by myself. And it all worked out well. What I did was I planned ahead my activation. I posted the activation on the POTA website, the time, the frequency, and then I operated those times and the frequencies, and the reverse beacon network picked me up. And at that time, then it posted me on those frequencies for the world to see. And then that was the way people called me, because it was an automatic spot. The reverse beacon network works out fantastically, both on POTA, parks on the air, as well as summits on the air. So that's a great feature. This is Mr. Davis's shack in the woods. He loves remote operations. And Mike has gone up and down the Appalachian Trail. He's a great outdoorsman. Have any questions about survival or anything, certainly give him a call. He's well versed, honestly. He's incredible. And this is his little shack to go. Typical radio, tuner, battery, string up an antenna, and he's on the air in a matter of minutes and working the world. Simple as that is. Okay, sorry. Simple thing. This is just a car battery, radio, tuner, the other accessories, a log. Just sitting back. During the daytime at these state parks, they're empty. You can sit down in any beautiful place and have a ball. Just relaxation. This was field day last year at the Weymouth group there up on the hill there. I forget the name of the hill actually. And I made
Great Hill Park,
I'm sorry?
Great Hill Park.
Yeah, Great Hill, exactly. That's exactly what it is. Thank you. They were up at Great Hill. I had never met these guys. I got invited to go up there and I asked where to set up. They said, no problem, any place you want. So I set up out in the field here by myself. I put up the mast and I was working all over the place. I had call after call after call. And then toward the end of the day, one of the gentlemen came over, this gentleman right here, and he said, how are you making out? We're not doing too good. And I'm saying, well, sit down and listen. I said, with that fan dipole I made, I'm working the world, no problem at all. So the next thing you know, he said, can I put my radio on your antenna? I said, sure, come on over. First contact he had was St. Petersburg, Russia. And he was in heaven. I had already been working, hundreds of people before. So they took over the station. I sat back and relaxed. And you can see everybody had a smile on their face. So it all worked out well. You don't need a truck. You don't need a mast. This is Fort Revere down in Hull. This is a car that I have that's many years old. Little fold-up table. I think my truck was being serviced, to be honest with you. And I do a POTA activation every single day since last July 14th, every day. And that's how I ended up getting the 14,000 contacts. And this happens to be Fort Revere. Again, tuner, radio, battery. And I had a ham stick on top of the car right here, and it worked out great. And that's just the other side. Simple, fast, easy, nothing complicated. Have lots of fun. Now, this is my 705, a QRP radio. I believe at this time I'm at the Appalachian Trail in Lee, Massachusetts. Whiskey Italy 1, Germany. Do you copy? Whiskey Charlie 1 November.
I sure do, Bob. This is Whiskey at 21 Golf.
Yeah, what do I got for a signal report? You're 5.9 plus here on the Appalachian Trail, Joe.
Yes, you're a solid 5'9", coming right across the state to the South Shore.
Okay, QSL, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Have a great night. QR's at the frequency, Whiskey Charlie 1 November. So again, 5-watt radio, the other end of the state, just sitting back, having a ball. I left the plastic on there for a period of time. Sorry about that. But worked out great. 706. This is in the back of my truck. I believe this was down at Freetown in that area. I'm going to start a little video here right now and showing the frequency. And by the way, this is using a ham stick too. Could you just repeat again your call sign and where your location is? Over.
Okay, roger that. Location is Central Alaska. Little pond called Central Alaska, about 100 miles.
Okay, and could you repeat your call sign again, please?
Kilo Lima 7 Whiskey, Kilowatt Lima 7 Whiskey. Over. Okay, great. Now, I don't know how it works exactly because we're not on the gray line in Alaska and the gray line down here at the same time. But I speak to guys up in Alaska on a regular basis. I have a half a dozen guys and we're always back and forth. And I think they're running a lot of power and I'm not, but we make great communications back and forth. And it's kind of exciting to work Alaska, I think. A lot of people don't hear them, but
needless to say, right in this area in the South Shore to Alaska, I worked them pretty much every day, honestly. Remote applications don't have to be necessarily out in the woods. This happens to be Mr. Davis in the front here, and the USS Massachusetts. They ran a weekend on the ship, and a lot of ships across the country. And here he is just tuning up, and looks like a couple guys in the background here too. John's right here, and they had a ball there also. And here's John, the president of the club. He's down at the Pilgrim Plantation Special Event Station, having a little bit of fun. Now, like I said earlier, these state parks, and there's many of them, and there's a lot that we don't even realize around this area that are just absolutely beautiful. And to be honest with you, nobody takes advantage of them like they should. They're absolutely stunning. You could walk up to this picnic table, set everything up, throw an antenna on one of those trees, tie it to the picnic table, and get out of the sun. And even bring a canopy if you want, put up a canopy. It takes you 3 minutes to do so. And just sit back, bring some refreshments and have a great time. This is just a lot of times it makes it easy for me to set it up in the back of my truck, and this is exactly what I do. I use the iPhone for timing, and if I'm in Wi-Fi or cell coverage, I will spot myself, and that way people will know where I am and what frequency I'm on in case I change frequencies. And then from there, the contacts come a lot faster. This is up in northern Maine. I think this was my first episodes going back there, for I hadn't been up there for 20 years. And I'm 33 miles into the woods by myself, picnic table and on the air. And Sabumic Lake happens to be a state park, and it was never once activated. And to be honest with you, I don't think anybody else has activated since I've been up there 4 times since then, but nobody else has ever gone up there and set up the radio station and activated, and just sat back and had a lot of fun. This is WI1G, John, and his ice house, and he also has a little bit of fun. First week in February, we joined up together. I think John spent 3 days up there. I spent 4 days. Didn't want to leave. A little bit cold, but we had the ice house and we had heaters. This is John on the inside. So again, he's got his iPhone. He's got his heater down here. He's got his KX2, and certainly some food here and there, his battery. And he's working the Cayman Islands, and he's having a lot of fun. And we switched back and forth on our frequencies. We had filters on either end, so he didn't interfere with me and vice versa. And every so often we'd switch frequencies and we'd switch filters, and we just sat back and we'd compare notes about every 3 or 4 hours, even though we were only 50 feet apart. Another type of antenna, magnetic mount up here. 17-foot MFJ vertical. You just screw it into the magnetic mount. You are on the air. And this is down on the coastline of Rhode Island. You can see by the antenna, it's extremely windy that particular day. And all the park number, this happens to be park number 2872. I actually forget the name of it, but it's beautiful down there. This was John. We were way up north. We had traveled an additional 13 miles into the woods that day because a lot of the roads were impassable, but we went to a Pitson's farm up there, and we went up there and had dinner, and then we did activate Sabumic Lake one more time from the truck this time because it was very cold and we had 3 to 4 feet of snow, but we had lunch in here, and again, we sat back and we had a good time. Typical application here, nothing too special, nothing out of the ordinary. Now, 5 watts, you say, how far can you go on 5 watts? Well, guys, look at this. Azores, Spain, France, England. Here's Golf 0DJF. Speak to him every day. Northern Scotland, the Scandinavias, all over the place. I mean, it's just incredible. You know, the band conditions are increasing. I've noticed a drastic change. Hopefully you guys have too in the last 3 or 4 weeks. And propagation is very, very strong in spring and fall. So we're going to have a good summer. Just want to get out there and have some fun. This just shows you how this ice house gets put up. And for the most part, I was warm in there with the exception of my feet. There is an insulated floor, but it's not much of a floor, to be honest with you. And inside there is a heater, which runs off propane. So you're basically warm from your knees up, and your ground is still ice cold, and you wear the boots and do the best you can. And, you know, when you're in the sleeping bag and in the middle of the night, you're nice and toasty, but getting out of bed in the middle of the night is torturous. It's just painful to have to get out. You know what I mean? It's just, you're so warm in the sleeping bag. Mine's good for 40 below, and the temperature drops quite a bit when that heater goes off. I didn't want to, I had a CO2 detector but on the machine, as well as I had it up on the roof of the ice house, but I still didn't trust it. So I shut the heat off at night. I don't take a chance. This was way up in northern Maine. This was where it was 33 miles into the woods. And they had the first snowfall, which was about 1 foot of snow. I took a chance and went in there on 4-wheel drive. So it worked out nice. And again, the radio station was inside, set up on a table, and it was a lot of fun. Here we are with an inexpensive homebrew transmitter, transceiver rather, and inexpensive. You can get on the air at a very low price if you don't have the radio. Oop. Let's see what this is.
Yesu.
W1 Delta Golf Kilo. Do you copy Whiskey Charlie 1 November?
Roger, Roger. November 1, Delta Golf Kilo. I say hello to everybody and Pilgrim Amateur Wireless Club. How's that sound, Bob?
Yeah, you're doing a great job up here in northern Maine, Danny, and I appreciate you always hunting me down no matter where I go. You're always there, and I appreciate that. And also appreciate Mike and all the guys down there that we all work together to promote ham radio. Over.
Okay, Mike, I'll tell them all tonight on the net. And have a safe trip back and enjoy the rest of the day. How's that sound? What's my signal report? Yours is a 5.9.
Well, you're peaking 5.9, so you're doing a great job, Danny. Hey, thank you very much and have a great day, and hope to catch you on another frequency.
Roger, Roger. Good luck.
That was Danny. He lives in Pawtucket. He's part of the Pilgrim group. Nice gentleman. Quite often on these trips out to the POTA remote sites, he'll show up, and it's always good to hear from somebody from home. We've already seen the ice house. It actually snowed while I was up there. I woke up in the morning one time and it started snowing, so I packed up and got out of there as fast as possible, because other than that, I would have been stuck in there.
Hey, guys, here's Whiskey Charlie 1 November. It's winter field day. I won't be able to participate in winter field day, unfortunately, because I have to plow snow. But I'm still gonna do my POTA. I've done it for 7 months straight, and I'm not gonna let a little blizzard of 22 put a damper on that. Just to give you a quick rundown of what's going on out here. There's the truck out here. I got my 17-foot whip on the front of the truck and goes all the way to the top. As you can see, I'm over here at Borderland K2420, and I'm hoping to catch all you guys on 14059, do my activation and go back to plowing. So go POTA, Whiskey Charlie 1 November. See you guys later.
So you can operate in pretty much any type of conditions. Here's a great photo down the USS Massachusetts. Some of the guys down there doing their remote operations, having a lot of fun. There's smiles on everybody's faces here. This is the Appalachian Trail.
Okay there, Elmer. How you doing? Good morning.
Now, Elmer is WI1G, by the way. He's my Elmer and my support.
As you can see, I'm running the 705. I haven't turned on the 891 yet. And a couple campers over here. It's a small parking lot. Looks like the field hasn't been mowed because there's some beautiful red apples on those trees over there, but you can't get to it with all the brush and everything without getting soaked. Small parking lot. That's how big the antenna looks right there. You know, I got the mast that goes up. Then I have the end fed that comes all the way down like that. And it goes to the tree out front there that I tied onto right there where that orange is. And, you know, it seems to be working out good. I did bring the fan dipole. I have that in the back of the truck just in case for a backup, but I don't think I'm going to need it. The other one's easier to set up. So we're good. And Elmer, thanks for straightening out that radio station over there.
Again, Elmer's WI1G. He's great help. When I go onto these remote operations, and specifically, this is my SOTA checklist: Kia, cable, radio, mic, military cord card. You really have to make a checklist. You forget one of these things and you walk in or you climb a mountain for 2 or 3, 4 hours, you're in trouble. You don't want to go all the way up there and then find out you're missing a connector or whatever it might be. And when I did Monadnock by myself on that cold day, and it was a 9-hour up and down, I thought I was going to die. And then I spoke to a trainer and he told me that I had some issues. One, I needed to eat bananas, and these little packages are called GUIs. And all the vitamins and everything you burn off, these supply them. So you take a couple GUIs with you. I have one before I go up the mountain, and I have one at the mountain coming down. I have one for a spare. And then also when I was at Monadnock coming down, I ran out of water. So you hate to carry the weight, but you need the water. This was operating on top of Monadnock. Again, 705. You saw the coverage I had earlier all over the world on 5 watts. This was an activation I did a week ago Tuesday, and this was up in Mount Grace. It was 17 degrees. That was the time we hit the cold front a week ago. It was 17 degrees. It was very windy. I got up to the summit after traveling a couple hours. I went up there by myself. There was no gate down here, so I climbed the tower to the top and just looked around. I did not activate up there naturally. It was extremely windy.
Guys, Whiskey Charlie, top race on the fire tower. 17, 1800 feet, 15 degrees, 20 degrees maybe, and very windy.
While I was back on the ground, again, this is the 705. I worked, I think, 46 contacts that day till my battery depleted, and then I had no place to go. But this was a contact I had also, which was a lot of fun.
Kilowatt Charlie #1, Lima Foxtrot Foxtrot. Do you copy Whiskey Charlie 1 November?
Roger, Bob. This is Kilo Charlie 1, Lima Foxtrot. You are 5-7. You're 5-7 in the air to Freetown, Massachusetts, and a little up and down, but I got you clear.
Okay, thank you very much there, Mike. You're 5 and 7 also. At Mount Gray is up here, and I guess it's about 20 degrees, winds blowing, so extremely cold. But hey, thank you very much for the contact. It's always good to hear anybody from the Pilgrim Group. Over.
And again, 5 watts, just a lot of fun. This was Wataddock. I think I'm saying that incorrectly, but this was another mountain I did. We had some good weather about 2 weeks ago, and I climbed this, and I worked, I think I worked 26 contacts into Europe all over the place. And again, just strung the antenna very close to the ground. I mean, this is 5 watts, guys, and it's incredible. Just, it's so much fun. Now, we're coming to the end here, but I just want to just share one other thing with you that I've been experimenting with lately. Now, this is a little photo of Japan. Japan, as you can see, is about 6,200 miles away. Everybody talks about the gray line. I never paid much attention to it, to be honest with you. You know, yeah, there's a gray line, it's over us. But look at this next photo. This gray line is just about here where we live in New England. And also at the other end, it's just about here where Japan is. I did an experiment. So that's where Japan is, that's where we are, just coming to the gray line. At this time at the gray line, early in the morning, the F layer is just becoming ionized. So our signals are beginning to reflect off of the F layer before it comes saturated, and then it has some absorption. So this is prime right now. This is prime. Guess what? People say your signals go right up over the North Pole, Alaska, and back down. So I did an experiment. At this time, about 2 weeks ago, I said, I'm gonna operate on 17 meters, consistently calling CQ. Who do you think I got? I got Japan. So I said, wow, this is so exciting. I think the first day I got 2 Japanese stations. The next day, I went the same exact location, the same exact antenna, called, couldn't get anybody. 8 minutes later, after that time period, bingo, Japanese stations come in. I said, wow, 8 minutes later, that's amazing. Then I started thinking, well, the Earth is tilting. Well, the third day comes along, I added another 8 minutes, right clockwork, right on the money, Japanese station. I did that for 5 days in a row. Every single day I added 8 minutes. And that will happen right up to the spring solstice, which I think is just like June 21st. And then it starts going the opposite way. So as far as this gray line, it's incredible. Another friend of mine down in the Pilgrim Group recently has been working in Australia. I asked him what time. Sure enough, it was gray line in Australia and gray line around New England. And it worked out perfectly. This is just some websites that I've created to help things, help people. Bestindeastern.com has lots of links on there. There's no profit or anything like this. It's just anybody's liable to use it and have fun. There's links for batteries, propagation, parks in the air, SOTA on the air, anything. And these other 2, I love POTA.com, I love SOTA.com. These are just photographs of the different locations, and I keep updating them. And at this time, is there anybody that has any questions or any comments or anything they'd like to add to anything I talked about? Push your space bar to talk. I hear crickets. What about WA1Q?
No, the only thing I've got to say is I did hear you when you were up on the Monadnock. So,
Oh, you did?
oh yeah, absolutely. Yep.
Oh, did we make contact? I don't remember.
Yes, we did.
Oh,
Yep.
okay.
Five,
Okay, you-
5'9", but I had a 10 noise level and I could still hear you through it.
Okay.
Yeah, it worked great.
And that's, yeah, that, you're exactly right. I forgot about that. And I'll tell you, WI1G couldn't ask for a better president. Every day he's out chasing me. And when I'm up in the wilderness by myself, if I need somebody to spot me on a frequency or tell me how the band conditions are, he's updating me constantly. So he's a great guy to have as a friend as well as the president of this club. At this time, are there any additional questions or anything that we might want to add to the conversation before we terminate?
Yeah, Bob, this is Gil. Hi, how are you?
How you doing,
Do
Gil?
you go on 10 meters? Because I'm doomed to be on there. But do you ever go on 10 meters much?
I don't, but I'm about to. And let me just explain to you a little bit about that. Recently, we've had a couple solar storms. It takes a couple days for it to hit the earth. And what happens is it wipes out our propagation at the low frequencies, 40, 20. When that happens, the best thing you can do is go up in frequency. And that would include 10 meters, 12 and 15. Because the solar doesn't affect those frequencies as much as they do the lower frequencies, which would be like 160, 40 and 20, which you probably can't make any contact whatsoever. So 10 meters is starting to come alive. On 12 meters, I work down in South America. Normally, I don't work anything in South America. The only thing I have not worked is Africa for some strange reason. I got to figure that one out. But no, 10 meters, it's on my list. 15's on my list, and 12 meters also. So that's going to come alive. So stand by and have some fun. We have any other questions about any propagation or any do's and don'ts or how you get involved with POTA or SOTA? It doesn't
Hey,
cost-
Rob, Doug, November 4, Delta Juliet Romeo. Hey,
Hey.
I was just going to say, you know, like when we went out to Alaska to do the POTA road there, we used, because some of the places we couldn't actually spot ourselves. So we used WinLink
Okay.
to activate.
Hey, Doug,
And,
let me just introduce you a little bit here. This
Okay.
gentleman is Doug, and he's down in Georgia, Northwest Georgia. And I used to go down there on a regular basis, working at an air show down there because I used to be an aerobatic pilot. And needless to say, we became friends. Well, Doug, Dwayne, both came from Georgia, and they went up to see a friend of theirs up in Alaska. And these guys went out in the pucker brush of Alaska and gave us activations on POTA up in Alaska last summer on their own money and so forth. And they did an outstanding job because there's hardly any stations up there. And just tell us how you operated up there, Doug. Give us a little quick summary.
Well, I'm not going to lie, it was tough. We actually carried a buddy stick, sponsored us and gave us a buddy hex to carry, and we set it up and used it. So when you say you talk to these guys in Alaska, and yeah, they must be running big power, because
Yeah, they are.
we had all kinds of we made a lot of contacts and made a lot of activations, but it was a tough run. It really was. And we're used to the propagation here in Georgia, you know, and we're you know, we could set up a park and, you know, go activate it and get 150 contacts in an hour. And when we got to Alaska, if we got the 10 contacts we needed to activate it, we were excited. It really was tough. But yeah, a lot of places there we didn't have cell phone coverage, and some of the times we would talk to some people and they would spot it, you know, spot for us, and actually go onto the website and get us spotted. Or, you know, we would use WinLink if we could, and do a WinLink send the stuff over WinLink and get it.
Can I interrupt you for a second, Doug?
Yeah, go ahead.
I don't have any experience with WinLink. Could you give us a little quick summary on that, please, for the guys and myself?
Yeah, what WinLink is if you're in a situation where you've lost all communication, WinLink is a great application. You can actually send text messages on it to cell phones. Cell phones can send messages back to it, and it's all done over HF frequency, and it uses your computer over HF to be able to do it. You can also send packets to be able to spot yourself, like on POTA. You can send, a lot of the emergency management guys use it for email communication. And it's a great program, you know. So if you lose all communications, your internet's down, all that's gone, and all you got left is your radio, you can still communicate. You can still send emails out, receive emails, send text messages. Well, I used it in Alaska to send text messages back to my loved ones to let them know that we were okay, you know, when I didn't have cell phone coverage, and worked great. It's a great little program, and it's free, and you can download it, and there's tons and tons of videos on YouTube on how to set it up and get up and get going, and it's a great program.
Oh, yeah. And when you were up there, did you have any Aurora issues?
We did not. The Aurora was way north of us, so we were lucky on that part, because if there's an Aurora, you ain't talking on HF.
Yeah, I've talked
So-
to your other friend up there, and he tells me when Aurora comes, it's all over. It's noise, and there's
Yep.
no propagation whatsoever.
Yeah, we prayed every day that we got no Aurora. I wanted to see it. I've never seen the Northern Lights, but I didn't want to see it also. So I wanted us to have the best chance to be able to give the people down in the lower 48 a chance to contact us, because I know a lot of people hunt and want Alaska. So that's the main reason we went, was there's a lot of parks that we activated that was first time parks that had never been activated. So we wanted to give everybody a chance to be able to, you know,
Absolutely.
get a contact with Alaska. So
You
tried
guys did an incredible job for the rest of us down here in the States. And
thanks, Rob.
I've told you this before, but thank you so much for spending all that money and time and to go up there. And I'm dead serious.
Well, we're planning on going back. We were just talking about it a couple days ago. Because of my accident, it's not going to be this year. It'll be spring of 2023 is when we're talking now about making another POTA run through Alaska. So
Great.
we might go north this time. We went south last time, so we'll see how it goes.
One last question I have for you, Doug. When you set up a POTA down in your neck of the woods before your accident, how long does it take you to get on the air?
10 minutes.
10 minutes. There you go.
If most,
Yeah.
probably even quicker than that.
Yeah, 10
I
minutes.
think
like
I
said.
think it literally takes me more time to get the stuff out of the car than it does to set up and get on the air.
Exactly. Yeah, sure. Good. Hey, thanks for the explanation there of Alaska. That's one of my dreams. Is there anybody else have any questions or anything they'd like to add, please? Hit the space bar on your computer to talk.
Casey from KC1BEK. I want to thank you, Mike, for doing it. I was wondering where you were when you first came on, where that mountain was.
Okay, it's Bob, and the first mountain was with a lot of the stones. That was Monadnock. That was Monadnock up in New Hampshire. Okay.
Thanks, thanks,
You're
Bob. I forgot.
no
Thank you.
problem whatsoever. Okay, any other questions before we hand it back to WA1Q or WI1G to terminate?
Yeah, Bob, K1GMN, you have done a tremendous job. This hour has gone by so fast and has been so interesting. Thanks a lot for your time and effort and your good work.
Well, I just enjoy it every day, and any of you guys that have never done it before, and if you ever want to team up, or you need me to come with you, or even build you a little antenna or whatever it might take, I'd love to help you. Anybody to get out there and do it, and something you don't have or anything, I can lend you one of my batteries for the day and we'll set you up and get you on the air. I'll tell you, once you try it, you're not going to want to stop. It's a lot of enjoyment. And it kind of filled in after the virus struck everybody too. It really did. It gave us a purpose. We were out in the fresh air and it helped a lot. And I'm going to keep doing it as long as I can. Thank you.
Hey, Bob.
Yes.
Yeah, it's Mike N1NTM, and thank you for everything you do. I mean, it's a great presentation and great opportunity because it shows us that we don't need a lot to get on the air, actually, to operate a POTA and have a great time. So thank you and everyone for everything.
Yeah, Mike is part of the Pilgrim group, and they work right beside the Whitman group. And I'll tell you, the Pilgrim group, I belong to that group also. Incredible bunch of guys. Everybody goes out and activates. It's like wildfire. Everybody's doing something special. Mike handles the communications. If I'm up in East Overshoe and I'm about ready to get on air, and if I'm able to text Mike, I text him. He announces it on the internet or sends messages on the website. And bingo, I have people in Pilgrim calling me, and we all work together just like that. And it's just and they do POTA parties like once a month. I think you got one coming up soon, don't you, Mike?
Yeah, we will have another one coming up. We just finished the one for the beginning of the spring to start the spring season. Actually, we did the one at Gilbert Hills State Park. The bands weren't very giving that day, but we had a great time and spent a lot of time talking about the POTA. And so, yeah, absolutely, it's a great hobby, that's for sure.
Yeah, so in the Pilgrim group, everybody shares information about do's and don'ts, and we find something new, we share it with everybody, and everybody jumps on the bandwagon, and we all benefit. Just hands working together.
Okay, thank you very much, Bob. It's a great presentation. Everybody here enjoyed it. Thank you so much.
Very welcome.
And we'll talk to you tomorrow.
Okay, I know you will. You'll be there. You'll be there before I will.
All right, I'm gonna end it.
All right, good night.
Thanks, guys.